Hello everybody, welcome to another video by ZooNamedGames. In this video today I'm just going to be discussing shortly, well actually it's going to be more of a rant this video, about the new Team Fortress 2 update, Meet Your Match. Now just to give a little short background, since I typically suit the KSP community and not TF2, Team Fortress 2 is a comical, historical first-person shooter that is different from others such as Overwatch, Call of Duty, and Battlefield, and all of those, in that it admittedly knows it's designed very unrealistically, whereas the others are very realistic. You have soldiers that can rocket jump while blasting rockets at their feet and fly, and the game is extremely unrealistic, but it's fun because it's creative and it's extremely strategical and tactical in how everything is working with their balanced classes and other such things like that. But I don't want to get deep into what TF2 is. I want to get straight to the update, which, like I said, is Meet Your Match, which was released on July 7th of this year, 2016, just in case. And the Meet Your Match update basically added competitions to TF2. Now that means you can get into a lobby and you can fight with other people and gain experience, similar to Call of Duty games, and probably others, but sadly, my only first-person shooter experience comes from a very brief period with Battlefield games, but I've played and beaten several Modern Warfare, Call of Duty games, should I say, and aside from those games, those are the only modern first-person shooters I've played, so I do have limited experience, but I do feel, at least, if nothing else, my viewpoint still stands. So yes, like I said, the Meet Your Match update brings all these new modes, which comes to finally align itself with other first-person shooters, not that TF2 is, which is something I should say going into this, before I can say anything else. TF2 is it's not supposed to be a first-person shooter. When I say that, very much Call of Duty and Battlefield and all these other shoot-'em-up games come to mind. Although that's how it works, it should be noted going in that the game, again, it doesn't take itself seriously. TF2 is in itself almost a joke to those other communities. It's basically pointing at them and laughing. It knows the game is designed in a way that it should know it's a joke. Everyone in the game community does. People take it seriously, but at the end of the day, who can look at a soldier blasting his way across the map by shooting rockets at his feet, or Delman who end up launching little sticky grenades on the floor and flying away, or a medic who has technology that's hundreds of years beyond ours, or an engineer who can design teleporters and infinitely dispensers that can give you infinite, never-ending amounts of ammo. These are technologies which are, again, unrealistic, especially since the quote-unquote story, which isn't provided within the game, the story is that it takes place in the 60s. That technology isn't even possible in the next 200 years, much less 50 years ago. So that's just what I want to go ahead and say, that the game never was meant to be taken seriously. And maybe the developers have thought that the game is serious, but at the end of the day, you need to remember, TF2 is a joke. The number one priority in the game, what everyone holds above everything else, hats. There is a literal current discrimination within the community. If you have the free-to-play hat, the Ghastly Gibbous, you are automatically ranked lower, by other people, just by instant first opinions. You are ranked lower because you are thought of as a free-to-play, which is a very derogative term to basically mean you're lesser because you haven't spent money on the game. Now, again, that doesn't really have any impact on your skills. It's just, again, it's just a judgment others put on you. And that's just one of the things that's going on. You have hats that are top priority. Then you have taunts, as well as other cosmetics. But I would definitely rank taunts above all. You can instantly become one of the most liked people on a team just for having a popular taunt, such as the Man Robix, which is going around now, which is the newest group taunt provided. Or you can go back and you can get the Katsuki Kick, or even the Conga, which is one of the first of the group taunts. So I just wanted to go ahead and say that TF2 is not serious. It never will be, and it never has been, and it should. And going forward, it should never be serious. No one should take it that seriously, because when you do, the heart and soul of the game is lost. Because again, you can't apply the aspects of the game. You can't take what's already there and try to make it more realistic, because the heart isn't there. And without the heart of the game, you just don't feel it. The game falls apart. So, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and review my opinions on the update. Now, like I said, it added competition mode. Now, this is actually pretty cool, because you can go in, fight other people, and get experience from it. However, here are the drawbacks. Some of the biggest cons. One, you can't leave a game without being penalized, and therefore ending up waiting more time for your next game. That's ridiculous. You should be able to leave. I understand they want to put some sort of penalty on you, so that way you don't leave. You know, they want to encourage you staying. Don't just quit and go to another game. Okay, I understand that. That makes sense. However, you can still do it differently. And by that, you could, instead of putting a time penalty on the player, why don't you add some sort of a system that keeps track of when players leave, and it just adds a minus or a plus if they stay for a whole game. And depending on your total, if it's negative, you go to games with lesser players, either lower skilled or more players that have a notorious past of misbehaving. Those who often leave, you end up going down if you're negative. Or if you're positive, you get to play with better players, or players that tend to have a better record of staying with the game. So that's important to note. But another thing is, people tend to either just sit AFK because they want to just get free experience by being there. They don't want to do anything. Or worse yet, I've seen players that have attempted to try and get themselves kicked, because if you're kicked, you still get the experience. So, just off the get-go, the main problem with the update, the actual games are actually breaking down. And my next point is that getting to the games take far too long. It can take you, now when it initially came out, it took almost 15 to 20 minutes just to get one game. That's absolutely ridiculous. Now, I understand you want to get yourselves finally up to par with the other first-person shooters. You want to be able to go to modes and have your players gain experience, be able to rank up through the levels. I understand that. That makes sense. But in Call of Duty and Battlefield, you might be in a lobby for a minute, maybe two at most. At most 2 minutes. And then you're off in the next game. But when it initially came out, you'd wait 20 minutes. That's way too long. Way too long. But now even with some of the updates they've added, it's down to about 3 to 4, maybe 5 minutes. Okay, it's better, but it's still way too long. The amount of time should, again, be minutes, or not minutes, it should be seconds. By 2 minutes, you should be in a game, regardless of which mode, which map, or anything. Which, thankfully, when the update finally was released, it was, you could not choose your map. You could choose your mode, but that's it. You could only choose if you want to do a capture the flag, payload, capture the point, king of the hill, stuff like that. You could only choose the mode. You could not choose the map, which was one of the biggest issues. Not to mention, again, going back, things you couldn't do in game, you couldn't vote kick. Meaning if you had a hacker who was ruining the game for everybody, then you could not remove him from your team, which is a significant, that's something that breaks the game beyond playability. Because you have players that will go in and they will deliberately break the game down. And when that happens, again, the playability is lost. So thankfully, since then, they have fixed that, and now you can vote kick. However, they've changed the game so much, they treat it almost like it's, like the competition mode, which is known as casual mode. And they treat it like it's something brand new. What it really, all it is, The only thing that casual mode is it's bringing the normal quick play maps and giving them a purpose. That's the only difference between them and old quick play maps. You're gaining experience. You're giving it a purpose. That's it. And now that's cool. You finally given a purpose, but you made it way too long to get in between maps, and now you may also made it unplayable because of other players hacking and stuff. Not to mention you have them sitting AFK or begging to be kicked just so they can get free experience. Stop. Casual mode is not supposed to be different. Make it exactly the same. And another aspect of the of the update I should mention is after every game, you get kicked from the game. Automatically, the game ends. You get your experience, and then you have to leave and find a new game, which is where the problems start to arise, because you have to go and find out that map. Now, some games can last anywhere from 45, maybe an hour, if you're really lucky, or it can last you about 3 to 4 minutes, maybe 5, if you have a really good team, which, okay, cool. The game's over real quick, and, you manage to rock it and you manage to beat everybody. Awesome. Only problem is, now you're going to have to wait as long as you did in that game. Not to mention, for the losing team, that's it's terrible to experience, because you're just sitting there knowingly you're going to lose and get significantly less experience points. Which, I'll get to the whole experience system later, which in itself is already broken, if not useless. But again, I'll get to that in a second. So, you have the teams just sitting there. I have, as a player, I repeatedly, when I'm on the losing team, and it's the last 1 or 2 points, when they just slammed us over and over, I'll just become an NG, and I'll get into the Rancho Relaxo and just sit there until the game is over. Now, that's not very fun, but it's the only thing I can do. Because fighting back is absolutely futile, because they're going to decimate any resistance, which makes the wait between the games practically meaningless. No one wants to sit there and wait for their eventual demise. So, they need to make it where you can get experience in between games. If you need something secure, fine, but don't keep breaking and stopping you and forcing you to go to a new game. If you want to cycle maps, fine. You already have an existing system. You have server time limits. When the server time limit hits 0, you automatically proceed to the next map, making the need to kick players out and go find a new one completely redundant. Again, you don't need to redesign the already pre-existing quick play mode. You don't, because you have everything you already need to make it work. You already made it. It already is proven to work. The players love it. So why are you going out of your way and making casual mode something completely different? It doesn't make any sense, but I digress on this point. So, as I've said, that's just the problem with game queues and the actual games. They're, like I said, completely normal, and the delays are absolutely ridiculous. You shouldn't be waiting that long just to go into another game, possibly of the exact same map and the exact same type. No purpose. And again, I digress. Now, I mentioned the experience system. Now, it's not, I may have mentioned broken, but it's not as much broken as it is pointless. Now, it's really cool, and it does give me a drive. I will admit, I play TF2 a lot more because of it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, rank/experience/level means absolutely nothing. It has no purpose whatsoever, other than just to make players play because, oh, I gained a level. In other first-person shooters, specifically I'm going to call back to Call of Duty Advanced Warfare and Call of Duty Modern Warfare, both games, all three. When you gain a level, you may possibly gain some additional weapons or attachment to weapons, or even textures for weapons, such aspects like that. That makes gaining levels that much more of a drive. Not only, it finally gives you an advantage over other players that isn't unfair. It gives you better weapons, but the weapons themselves are not going to make the player better. I can already speak as having played many, many hours of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 online. I am level 70 on it, and I am still a piss poor player. I am extremely below average on it, even though I have all the best weapons, because the weapons don't make the players. The players make the weapons effective. Even those benefits have to be used properly. Just because a weapon has advanced damage or advanced range, first I have to hit a player for either of those things to matter, or better yet, just be aiming in the right direction. Otherwise, those benefits are pointless. So again, if you don't worry about buffing things, which is another aspect I need to get to, is what benefits and buffs have occurred in the actual changelog. So again, the level system has no purpose whatsoever right now, and it gives you really cool badges, which I will admit I love to click on just to make it go cling 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 cling. But aside from the medal and aside from the numerical number it's given you for your level, there is nothing for it. There's nothing behind it. Now, if Team Fortress 2, it does seem I receive free weapons. I unlock new ones, but the only problem is I've already got a absolute crap ton of weapons. So, if nothing else, these weapons it's giving me are going to end up becoming smelted. And not only that, they seem pointless, because you can get these type of weapons automatically. So, and again, I can't confirm that these are from my levels. It's just, I'm playing. But normal gameplay, you sometimes just find random weapons, and you get to keep them. So I don't know if it's from me leveling up or if it's just me playing the game. But if it is from me leveling up, it needs to be something better than just finding weapons. Because I already have over 1,000 hours, and that was before the update was even released. So all these items, I've already got like 3 or 4 of each of them. So they're pretty much pointless, and at the end of the day, I'm just going to scrap them and end up using them for crafting. So they're pretty much pointless. They need to have new weapons. They need to create... they need to find your most used class, or the one you used to beat the game. You know, find the one you used most often in that last game, and then give you new weapons that are made for this update. Which, I should note, for the Meet Your Match update, there were no new weapons added. None. Or at least not that I can see. Because I do have I do have the changelog here up in front of me. And yeah, I do not see any new weapons. So that's something they definitely should have added, is new weapons at least. I understand it's a huge update. And another thing I should state, just stepping aside from the current conversation, from what I've heard, I have nothing to confirm this, but I've heard that there is only 5 people working in the development department of Team Fortress 2. And these people are quote-unquote passionate about the development. Well, first off, if that's true, I understand. But Valve, I've also heard that Valve has an open policy that their developers/employees can choose what they work on as to what game, as to Team Fortress 2 and every other successful Valve titles. Sorry I can't list others, but I would say stuff like Half-Life 3 and Portal, but I would assume development on those are pretty much closed, considering they're not, from what I've heard, they're not multiplayer games, and they're games that are very, very old at this point. Not that Team Fortress 2 isn't. So, if it's true it only has 5 people, then even then, I still highly doubt that they're quote-unquote passionate. Especially not with the work they've done. This update is very much subpar, and a lot of people have said themselves that this is probably the breaking point. The community has been very, very loyal to to Team Fortress 2 and Valve's development. They've always defended it. They've always said they probably have a better purpose, so they're gonna get around to making it better. But people no longer, this update has kind of become the straw that broke the camel's back, because no longer are people just being able to stand by it, because it's so badly made. And to continue on, I want to get to the actual content, such as the updates, what they changed, the buffs and the updates. Now, the first thing I'm going to mention, because it's my biggest issue, is they made this the made they I'm sorry, they made the spy faster. That's my number one complaint right here, right now. They buffed him from standard 100% speed, which is the speed as most characters. It's standard walking speed. It's the speed for the sniper, and it's the speed for the pyro. You know, it's standard walking speed. But they increased it from 100 to 120%. Now, just to give some references to speed, the scout, the fastest standard class in the game, not with any buffs from weapons, he is 130%, which if you do your math, that's only a 13% speed difference between the scout and the spy. Now, before this update, the second fastest class in the game was the medic at 107%. Now, these are all, again, default values. No, assuming that there are no items that give any buffs equipped. So that means this the spy has suddenly become the second fastest class in the game, which is that is unbelievably unfair, unbalanced, and extremely OP. Because now spies can chase any character. They can chase anything but scouts. The only class immune to them now are scouts, and even then, scouts are not immune. Because if they slow down for even a second or stop, they become, they can be chased by a spy. And that means they can backstab anybody. Now spies have become one of the most OP, overpowered characters in the game. And that's just with backstabs. Now that's not to mention how defenseless the engineers are. Now spies can whip across an enemy intel or an enemy control point, and they can zap 3/4. If there are 5 sentries in an intel, now he can zap all of them before even an engineer can realize what's happening. Because again, he's moving 20% faster than the engineer ever could. And not to mention, he's already hard enough to hit, but now the engineer doesn't stand a chance to chase him. Before, they were the same speed. Now, he can run away, and there's no way the engineer can get him without shooting, which most of the engineer's weapons are not buffed with damage. Now, thankfully, they have things like the the Widowmaker, which is made to be offensive, but the engineer is not an offensive class. His weapons are not designed to kill. His specialty is creating buildings, not attacking. Now, you can make an engineer very much offensive, maybe even possibly a very, very big asset of a team. But it's very difficult. It requires the right setup and the right skills. If you don't know how to, you're useless and you're wasting the engineer's possibilities. But my point of the whole issue with the spies is now the spies are one of the fastest classes in the game, which is ridiculous. Now they can speed backstab. They can go from one person to another to another to another within a matter of seconds. Within a matter of seconds, they can go ahead and kill half the team. Which, going back to what's actually the problems in the games, because they have locked all of the games to official Valve servers. Actually, this brings up another issue now I think of it. Because of that, every server has a respawn timer. Now, this is typical within games, but I'm just going to go ahead and call out every first-person shooter game, but specifically TF2. Nobody likes the respawn timer, and there's no real purpose, because when you add that, you're just delaying players, and not only that, but the rush and the drive to do better you get from a game is paused. You are forced to sit back and wait. Wait typically over 10 to sometimes I've seen 22, 23 second delay. That's ridiculous. You are useless to the team when you are dead, and you having to wait ridiculously, because when you get an adrenaline rush from going through and attacking or defending amazingly as one of the best players, that adrenaline rush you get, by the time the timer is over and you respawn, either the event if say your base is being attacked, by the time you respawn, They have taken over your base. It's completely destroyed, and there is no point in you even being alive. If you respawned instantly, then that would be okay, because you could go right back. And if you're worried, oh, we need the respawn timer to to space players out to make sure that there aren't too many, well, that's bullshit. You don't need that, because players will come in whenever they do. There's no reason to. And there's actually one major benefit from removing it: spawn camping. Spawn camping is something that ruins the fun for the enemy team, because they can't even leave their spawn. All they can do is sit and wait for them to leave, which often they won't. It takes an extremely powerful offensive blow just to get them out of your way and to get the game back to right about where it was. So it's absolutely ridiculous. But if you have instant respawn, no delay, and the enemy team tries to spawn camp, the second they kill somebody, they come right back. Maybe it takes 2 seconds. 2-second delay is okay. But at least when they spawn camp, they end up having a whole enemy team fill out from the intel, from the spawn. I'm sorry, not the intel. From their spawn. They can't defend against that. No matter how well they set up outside of their spawn, you can't defend against that. So they will break loose. Always. But when you have this 15 second delay, well, yeah, you're spawn camped. And the worst part is, dying actually becomes very much avoiding death becomes a priority, because you can't defend against it. And if you die, because again, I said this before, you are useless. So I mean, if you want to make players value the characters' lives, oh, don't die. Oh, I can kind of understand that. So why don't you limit it to a number of lives? Or maybe implement that with the current existing respawn system. Say you have 5 lives, and you get a life every 25 seconds, even when you are playing. That would be awesome. And if you run out of lives, you have to go through that respawn timer. Okay, but at least you have a pre-existing cache so you can instantly respawn. And when you get that adrenaline rush, you can wait for it, get some stock. When you're ready, you have enough backup lives. You can go out there and kick some ass, get your adrenaline running, and because you have those extra lives, it's not wasted. You could just keep going and keep pummeling. That is a huge asset to any team when you can get your adrenaline running and actually push and actually fight. But when you're sitting in the respawn timer just twiddling your thumbs, you're absolutely useless to anybody. So that's just the respawn timer, which is one issue. Another one. Because it's official Valve servers, they disabled the recording feature, which is extremely annoying, which they should know. One of the biggest aspects of the TF2 community is the videos that come from the game. Well, since it's such a big aspect, why don't you enable it? And again, because it's official, there's no way to record actual competition footage without external hardware. Hardware, or in my case, software. Now, people could record it, say, with Fraps, OBS, or whatever else they have, but that's extremely annoying. Why do you need to go out and download external software? I keep saying external hardware. Why download software to do something that the game is already built with? Why does it have to go to a community server? That's absolutely ridiculous. But I digress from this point because I have more to complain about. It's not even a complaint. This is a rant that many players across the TF2 community have already said themselves. And the only reason I'm saying it is to add to the mass and add to the voice of the community, and also maybe voice something that others haven't. So, again, I digress. Here's my next point. Sorry, turn on my voice. My next point is, people are very upset at the fact they've removed the quick play option. Basically, before this update, if you wanted to go and play a game, you could either go, there was a nice button you could click, you could set up your settings. Do you want an official Valve server, random critical hits, enabled, disabled, don't care, instant respawn or normal. You know, you could go through and set all these settings, and when you have your settings set, you just hit the go find a server button, and you either can select a map, or you can just have it pick one at random, go into your game, voila. Everyone was happy, and one of the biggest aspects of it, as one person mentioned that I've heard, with this new competition mode, it kind of removes the community. Now, if you've ever played an online server, especially when you revisit, say, with Minecraft or this can happen for any game, as long as it's a continuous server that's visited by the same people, that becomes very much, I say community server, but that sounds like it's the actual mode. No, but I mean literally a community server, almost like a neighborhood. You know everybody. You've seen them. You've talked to them. They're practically, it stops being a game and just kind of ends up being something you do, like sitting around in a bar drinking drinks with other people. The game's just kind of in the middle, but very much an unbelievable asset to that community. Because without it, you wouldn't have met these people, and you guys wouldn't be having fun while you're playing it. So, again, TF2 is not a serious first-person shooter, and that's why. People can, you could sit and drink a beer and shoot somebody and laugh about, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to kill you, I didn't know you were friendly. You can do stuff like that because TF2 is that friendly. Now, you could have that type of community with other first-person shooters, but considering it's so competitive, I almost feel like you don't. No matter what you say, you don't get that same connection. Because in TF2, you can dance and you can taunt, as well as just talk and do all these random other things that are completely unrelated to the game mode and completely unrelated to the actual gameplay. You just do it because it's fun, and that's something hugely that the developers need to take in significant thought. It's all about the players having fun, and when they removed the quick play feature, it ruined the fun for too many people. It's not just ruined the fun for a lot of people. I would say it ruined it for too many. Too many people are upset because you couldn't. Again, I would probably say one of the big aspects, or at least for me, is now you can't just instantly find servers with instant respawn or random critical hits off. Now, those are all huge things that people loved, but more importantly, you just clicked a few buttons and bam, you're on a map. It didn't take 5 to 6, maybe 8 minutes just to find a server. And a server filled with random people. But now there is a community servers option. I need to stop and acknowledge there is a community server option, and you can search for specific ones and go and find them. And you can blacklist them to no longer see them, or you can favorite them so you can get direct access to them. That's still possible. But before you could find random servers, but because you're looking with the same criteria, there might only be 6 servers rather than 50. So with only those 6, you more often encounter the same people. When you do, you're playing the game randomly, but still, again, with a community. People you know and you frequently play with. I myself have to admit, I do know how significant the community aspect part is. I was playing Team Fortress 2 on the Capture the Flag map, and by complete and total coincidence, I was just playing and I bumped into somebody who used to work for me in the quote-unquote worked for me for the Kerwin Mines Corp. And we were just playing on Team Fortress 2 and we randomly bumped into each other. We didn't plan it, and the fact that we saw each other, we knew each other, and we could be able to carry a conversation, that's amazing. Because it means the game isn't so serious. You're not too focused on trying to do what you're supposed to that you can take a break and just look, let's see who's here. I often, almost every game, I stop at the beginning and I look at everyone's name. I mean, there's no purpose for me to do this. I look at everyone's name and their profile pictures and just see what they are. Because I can. It's not because it's boring and I have nothing to do. It's because I can, and I feel it's interesting to me to see what everyone, what they are, how stupid and sometimes silly they decide to name or picture themselves. So that's that aspect. But the last of the I drifted away. I was talking about all the changes they made, the actual changes to pre-existing classes and stuff. Probably the I'm sorry, my throat's being tore up. The last thing I have to note is probably the other biggest issue, and I note issue with this. Actually, there are two. Is for one, the soldier's righteous bison was nerfed. Now, a lot of people are complaining simply because nobody used the weapon. Now, you might be thinking, well, if nobody used it, why does anybody care? Well, they care because it was such a useless weapon. Why nerf it even more? It was already bad. Why make it worse? And at this point, people are crying out just because. Why? They're actually defending it. Why are you making it worse? The few people who do it are doing it because it's a joke. They're not using the weapon seriously. So why are you making this joke weapon even worse? Now, if you want to know what the actual change was, it fixed a quote-unquote bug which caused players to be hit by the same projectile. Basically, it could hit a player and hit another one, or even hit the same player twice if they ended up walking back into the beam. Now, they quote-unquote stated that it's a bug, but as other players have specifically noted, that was actually mentioned in the on every loading screen for every game. It gives you a small tip, and in that tip section, it specifically stated players could be hit by the same projectile multiple times. So that is absolutely ridiculous. Why do you need to remove something that was already specifically something that you wrote to be a tip, something that other players should take into consideration when using the weapon? That just sounds like you just need an excuse to change something, so don't. And if you do need to change something that's brand new, or something that people already hate. And the Righteous Bison, nobody hated it, it's just that nobody really cared for it. If anything, people were just kind of neutral to it. And the next thing is, quote-unquote, per-shot damage has been increased to compensate, resulting in slightly more damage on average. Now, basically, if you hit somebody at point-blank range, you get more damage, but the damage drop from point-blank all the way up to increasing distance, the damage drop is significantly less. But probably the biggest of all things, and that is a problem, is that it slows the projectiles even more. Now, it's already a slow weapon compared to the normal rocket launcher, but now it's even slower. So if a player hits it, it's more by accident. You're more likely to hit somebody that's walking perpendicular to your firing path than somebody that's actually in your line of fire. So it's very much it's been a weapon that's been questionably nerfed, just because why? And why for the updates? Why did you change it the way you did? Okay, maybe you wanted to stop it from going through players multiple times. Okay, but why did you need to drop the damage? It's already extremely poor in comparison to a normal rocket launcher. Why'd you have to slow the projectile? It's, again, slower than a typical rocket launcher, so I don't understand that one. But the last one I can see here... Ugh. I am so sorry. I don't know why my throat has been tore up so badly. Ugh. So, like I said, the only other thing that I can note just by looking at this is the Eureka effect has been oddly changed. They reduced, which I should note first off, that the cost of teleporters have been reduced from 125 metal to 50. Now, that's definitely a benefit. I love it. Because teleporters were hard enough to use because they were, for one, they were an odd number, 125. Ugh, you don't get that with ammo packs. You get it with 40 or 100 or a full refill. Those are the ones that I've seen. So it was very hard to get 125, and me being a perfectionist, I want to burn out all my metal. or just have a full set and then use it. Either way, it was kind of an odd choice of a number, but more importantly, it was very expensive. You couldn't build 2 teleporters. Now you can. So it's good that the price has gone down, but the Eureka effect has become, I mean, I'm not complaining here, I like it, but it's reduced the amount of metal you get from dispensers and pickups from 50. It used to be you only got 50% or half of each pickup, but now it's been reduced to 20%, which is very nice. I approve of this. It was very much a difficult weapon to use because it had little to no weapon offensive benefit, and you could teleport. Oh, yeah, you could teleport back to your spawn or back to one of your teleporters. Okay, that's cool, and you could teleport anywhere, just automatically with the wrench, but the only problem is, again, extremely costly to use, and the cons, the issues with it are far more costly than not. So, that's what I just wanted to say about that, and that's just my thoughts on this update. It just feels very much broken, and it's going to take several more weeks before they finally get it right. So all I can do is hope that they fix things, and probably the biggest thing that the Team Fortress 2 developers need to do is they need to stop and actually talk to the community. Because there's a disconnect, nobody knows the developers don't know what the players want, and the players don't know what the developers are going to do, or more importantly, what the developers want, or where the developers have their mind on, where they want to take the game. Okay, you're the developers, it's your choice. We understand that. You're the one in charge. But at least share your opinions, your ideas, your dream. Where if you really are passionate, if you are truly passionate, you won't shut up. People who are passionate want everybody to know what their great plan is. Passionate people aren't quiet. They don't want to hide their idea. They're not the kind of people that want to hide it until it's done and go, surprise. No, passionate people will not shut up about their idea. And if they want to at least get 1% of true passion, they can ask. Go on Twitter and just say, hey guys, do you like this idea for this slight change? If they asked, that would be huge, because players would respond in mass, and they would respond positively. They would give you their honest thoughts, and they wouldn't just toss it down. They would explain what's wrong with it if there's a problem. If it's great, they would praise it, and they would get significant praise. And it doesn't have to be just Twitter. They can do it on anything. They can do it on Steam. They can do it on any social media source that they can think of. It's just the fact that they've got to take that first step. They have to ask, and they have to know what the community thinks of what they're going, or at least give them just a tiny glimpse of what you're imagining and what you want to take the game to. Personally, I feel they're taking the game. They're no longer taking it. It's no longer TF2. I will admit, with a other part of the community, the game has changed. I don't know what to, but it's leaving TF2 what it used to be, and it's starting to become something else. And personally, I'm not a big fan of it, but whatever. So, all I hope is that the developers learn to actually communicate. If they do that and they finally start talking to us, and at least, if nothing else, telling us where they're taking their work, at least tell us that. If nothing else, at least they can learn to communicate what they're doing or what they're planning, or talk to the community with their ideas. With that, I'm going to step out. That's everything. I have my thoughts on the Meet Your Match update for Team Fortress 2. Thank you for watching. If you want to see other KSP type videos, you can look at our channel's uploads. I hope to be getting back to my science lectures series here sometime soon. I have loads of ideas. I just have been so busy. But if you guys want me to, definitely let me know in the comments video below. If nothing else, at least favorite this, like this, or more importantly, share this channel with your friends and let other people see what we do. So again, thank you for watching. I apologize for my throat, and I'll see you guys in the next video.